The Seventh Tower by Garth Nix. Book 1, The Fall. Chapter 10. Tal ducked, but the shadow spit wasn't aimed at him anyway. It struck the Beastmaster table. There was a flash of light, a sudden sizzling noise, and the still battling lizard beast and Blubbertub were gone. Tal looked at the empty battle circle, where small shadows ran like water over the side of the table and onto the floor. He cringed as several shadow patches flowed past him, back toward Sharakor. Tal realized, shivering, that the spirit shadow had spat some portion of itself. Now all those small shadows were rejoining the whole. Tal cleared his throat, about to protest the spirit shadow's destruction of the game, but his shadow guard leaped up and thrust itself into his mouth, an instant gag. Tal reached up to pull it free, but the friendly Imperial guard gripped him as well, so he couldn't move. The last pieces of shadow spit rejoined Sharakor. The shadow dragon's head swung slowly from side to side, as if seeking another target. Then it slowly withdrew, back the way it had come. When it had fully withdrawn, the door creaked shut behind it. Tal's shadow guard dropped out of his mouth, and the Imperial guards visibly relaxed. "What?" Tal began to say, but he got no further. The friendly guard and Ethar picked him up and practically threw him out the other door. "Go!" said the friendly guard. "Go!" "But I won!" Tal protested. "At least my beast was winning." "We should not have played," said Ethar, frowning. "It was my mistake, so you shall not be punished further." "But I—" said Tal. "Sharakor came because the Empress did not like an orange boy in the upper violet," said Ethar roughly. She pushed Tal quite hard in the chest, sending him staggering back, his shadow guard trying to hold him up around the legs. "Go back down, boy!" Tal stared at her for a moment, furious at being cheated. But what he saw in Ethar's eyes was not anger, or loathing, but fear. The friendly guard was afraid too. "I'll be back," muttered Tal. "I'll see the Empress. I'll get my sunstone." Then his courage failed him, for whatever scared two shining ones of the violet was more than enough to scare Tal. He turned around and ran, back down the stairs to the normal violet levels, then in a rush to the laundry chute. Tal rode the chute all the way down 48 levels, from 7th violet to 1st red. The leather soles of his shoes were smoking when he finally stopped. He had come so close to winning the game of Beastmaster, to being let through to see the Empress. But, Tal thought miserably, he hadn't won. He hadn't gotten a new sunstone. All his plans had come to nothing, and he had no new ideas. He thought of his mother, sleeping the sleep of sickness in her sun chamber, of Gref trying to escape the blinding lights of Lectorium bullies, of Kusi, who was too young to understand, but still cried because she knew everyone else was upset, and of his father, lost somewhere in the dark, trusting that Tal was looking after the family. Great-Uncle Ebbitt was his last hope. Surely Ebbitt would think of something. The wardrobe of white bone was gone, though it had been there only that morning. It seemed such a long time ago, because so much had happened. Not for the first time. Tal wondered how Ebbitt moved everything around so quickly. Tal moved cautiously through the furniture. He wasn't in a mood for one of Ebbitt's practical jokes, particularly since they often involved some sort of mild injury. But his great-uncle was clearly in sight when Tal rounded a marble statue of a chosen, caught forever in the stance of a light sculptor, sunstone at the ready. That was a good sign. When Ebbitt hid, the practical jokes were always much worse. Coincidentally, the old man was sitting by a Beastmaster table, idly shuffling the cards. He got up as Tal approached. "How was the achievement?" he asked. "I heard it was a superb performance." "I got the yellow ray of failed ambition," said Tal sullenly. "I didn't ask for your results," snapped Ebbitt. "You would never be properly rewarded with Sushin as one of the judges." "But why?" Tal sat down in a convenient but too large chair and rested his head in his hands. "Everything I do, there seems to be someone against me." "Probably because there is," Ebbitt observed. "Sushin, for one. He's always hated your father for besting him in the achievement of combat. 8 times, I believe, over the years. But he wouldn't dare act alone. I'm afraid that someone higher up has taken a dislike to our family." "Who?" asked Tal. I don't know, said Ebbitt. Without warning, he suddenly pursed his lips and whistled a complicated bird call, then cocked his head as if expecting a reply. When none came, he continued, "But I'll find out. Now, where have you been? The achievement finished hours ago." "I went to see the Empress." "You what?" exclaimed Ebbitt. "But the guards wouldn't let me in," Tal continued. "Ethar said she would if I won a game of Beastmaster, and I was winning, but then Sharikor—" "Sharikor?" exclaimed Ebbitt, gripping his white hair and doing a strange, frenzied dance across to Tal. "Sharikor came in and spat on the game, and the beasts disappeared," said Tal. "Then Ethar and another guard kicked me out." "Thank the sun and the stars and all things of light," said Ebbitt, sinking to his knees. "Don't you know anything, boy? You must never, ever go to the Empress without permission." "I just wanted to get a sunstone," Tal said wearily. It seemed he couldn't do anything right. "I have to get a sunstone somehow. I've asked the cousins, and tried to win an achievement, and tried to see the Empress. I can't think of anything else." "Why not?" said Ebbitt. "You are my grandnephew, aren't you? You must have inherited some of my tremendous thinking power." "I don't know," said Tal. He wasn't sure Ebbitt had all that great thinking power. He had lots of weird thought power, but that wasn't the same. "Where can you find sunstones?" asked Ebbitt. "Sunstones that no one owns yet. Lots and lots of lovely sunstones, ripe for the taking." "Nowhere," Tal replied glumly. Ebbitt stretched out his hands toward the ceiling and capered around in a circle, singing, "Up in the sun, the glorious sun, where stone fingers stretch and stretch, up through the darksome veil." "You mean the towers?" asked Tal, unable to believe what Ebbitt was suggesting. "Yes," said Ebbitt. He stopped capering and knelt down next to Tal, suddenly serious. "It's dangerous, but I believe it is the only hope now. All the usual means of gaining a sunstone will be blocked by Sushin or the chosen he's in league with. You will have to climb one of the towers and steal a sunstone. Steal several while you're at it." "Steal a sunstone?" asked Tal. "But what about the guards, and the spirit shadows, and the traps?" "Try the red tower," said Ebbitt. "It will be the least protected. Your shadow guard looks pretty smart. It'll help you find the traps." Tal looked at his shadow guard. It had taken a shape similar to Tal's natural shadow, but with the chest bravely puffed out. Obviously, it thought stealing a sunstone was a good idea. "How would I start?" asked Tal. "I don't even know how to get outside." "I know," said Ebbitt. "Underfolk ways. Unseen by chosen. I'll show you." Tal stared at the old man, and then down at his puffed-up shadow guard. It sounded extremely risky, but he really couldn't think of anything else. "All right," he said finally, "but first I want to go home and have a rest." And he thought he could say goodbye to his mother, and Gref and Kusi, in case he didn't come back.
"Excellent!" exclaimed Ebbitt. "I'm sure you'll have lots of fun.